Oh, hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Niner Faithful.
What's going on, everybody? It's Adam 49ers Insiders. How's everybody doing?
We hope everyone had a blessed week. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us for episode 12 of season 3 of Niner Faithful Radio. Me and Adam are in a great mood. We just finished our interview with our special guest, Ian Williams. The episode will be made as a separate episode available on Tuesday. So today
On
we're
a
going to go ahead and
Tuesday.
get into a little bit on Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday. Sorry, we're in a great mood. I mean, it was a really good interview. We really enjoyed it. We, of course, again, would love to thank Ian for coming on and giving us about 20, 30 minutes of his time. It was really awesome. He was a great guest. We're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of D-line talk going into OTAs. Adam has the OTA dates. We're going to get a little bit into the Bosa injury and some of our training camp OTA battles that we're really looking forward in. Just real quick before we get started today, and we'll jump right into Niners ball. I went ahead and for those who follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I went ahead and did the Facebook poll, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Is Twitter and Facebook? The question this week was which rookie wide receiver do you feel will have more of a overall impact, Debo Samuel or Jalen Hurd? And Debo Samuel went away going away. Twitter was 72% Debo Samuel, 28% Jalen Hurd, and Facebook it was 67% Debo and 33% Jalen Hurd. Adam, just real quick, your opinion, bro. Your overall, just not necessarily yards, scrimmage, all
Yeah.
that. Who do
Well,
you think will have a bigger impact?
for sure. Well, to keep it short and sweet, I'm going to go ahead and go with Debo Samuel. But here's the thing. I ended up actually tweeting about it like a few days ago, and I said I think these are like kind of my projections. As we all know, Jalen Hurd might get some carries at running back, depending on the situation. And I can actually really see him being used on reverses and things like that. Once again, with his running back skill set from where he used to play at the University of Tennessee before transfer to Baylor, obviously, and transitioning into the wide receiver role. He only played wide receiver for 1 year. But my thing for Jalen Hurd was over under 500 scrimmage yards, as you know. I think you actually ended up answering the
Yeah,
question, did you not?
I did.
And you kind of went with
Yeah,
under, or
I went with over.
you went with over. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Uh,
Yeah,
I went
so
with I went with over just because it's scrimmage yards. So that to me that
exactly.
was the key.
I mean, like you can see like 150 yards rushing and then 350 yards possibly receiving. Um, Honestly speaking, though, like I definitely see him as like a third down conversion kind of guy. Obviously, we have other guys that
Hmm.
can do the same things with Trent Taylor and all those kind of guys. But I think he's really has a possibility of the chance to be a really nice red zone target, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was brought in. Not necessarily just for that. Obviously, who knows? Obviously, the future is going to be Debo Samuel, Dante Pettis, and Jalen Hurd in three wide receiver sets. But with his body, being 6'4.5", almost 6'5", that's like a nice Z starting wide receiver right there. And then you can maybe have
Hmm.
Debo at the X, and then I mean, the scenarios are endless. And then for Debo Samuel, I had him at 670 yards over under. What do you think?
Oh,
That is
I'd
very
say
tough.
receiving or scrimmage
With Debo
for
Samuel,
for
I'm just
Debo.
going. Well, I mean, technically, you can go with scrimmage, but I ended up asking purely receiving for the question. 670 yards receiving.
Receiving, I'll say slightly under. I'll
Slightly
say
under.
slightly under. Um, see, because to me, what we discussed this kind of a little bit when we talked about receivers is okay. So we're gonna go ahead and before we get into that, we want to say what's up to Bob Money. It's not Marley. Apparently, I read it right. Go hard and Chris. Thank you so much. Chris actually bought a T-shirt from us, so we really appreciate that, Chris. You should be expecting it. I gave you the tracking number, so you should be expecting. Just wanted to give everybody a quick hello and see that we do acknowledge y'all. When we see y'all comments. Um, Also, I want everybody to go ahead and we're gonna do what I like to call, oops, Hopefully my shit didn't go out. Uh-oh.
You seem
Okay,
fine.
I'm back. Okay. Um, so basically, what I want people to do is go ahead and we're gonna do a roll call. Just shout out your Niner Empire, shout out your city, and shout out where you found us, so we can know exactly how we can go, what avenues are working or not. But yeah, so to get back to the point, to get back to your point, is I see Debo Samuels as our John Taylor. I see him being you're taking a 10-yard slant and running it to the house. So to me, that I say 10-yard slant, just whatever route it happens to
Yeah,
be. So I think he'll get a. I think his number one targeted, I believe, will be Dante Pettis and George Kittle, obviously.
me too. Me
So
too.
to me, I don't think he's going to get as many targets, but I think his yards are going to be high. So his yards per catch will be high. He just won't get as many targets. So he might
Right,
have 50, 45, 50 receptions, and maybe 650 yards, but he might have
right.
a 19 yards average catch because, that's going to be Debo Samuel's game.
Right. And that's what makes it kind of difficult to project like
Mm-hmm.
numbers for everybody because obviously as we're expecting, the running backs are going to get a good amount of action
Oh,
this year. Obviously in the passing game as well. As we all know, Tevin Cole, I put out some gifts out there as well. Tevin Coleman has been used under Kyle Shanahan lining up purely like at the slot. Like getting used for bubbles and little slants and things like that. That guy literally, he's 6'1". Once again, we talked about it
yeah.
on the show, I think last time. People kind of forget, like in your head, he's like 5'10". You know what I mean?
He's six
But
one.
those guys, right, and you know what? And that's the funny part too. In terms of we all want to carry 7 wide receivers because let's keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
We all have little attachments to some of the wide receivers that we have, and we don't want to give
KB.
up on them yet. KB, Trent Taylor, I believe in Richie James honestly too. And that's why, like right now, I don't have Jordan Matthews making the 53. Once again,
Yeah.
$300,000 in dead money. But you have somebody like Jalen Hurd, Caden Smith, guys like that can be used in the red zone, obviously. So I think at the end of the day, he's just not going to make it. But back on
Yeah.
point. So you know what I thought about? Over under 4,000 passing yards for Jimmy Garoppolo because that the
Oh,
averages on that
over.
one is over. So that average is going to be,
Over.
I think it's going to be over two. By how much? Only God knows. We can only hope it's like 4,500 plus. But
Yeah.
4,000, I wanted to keep it there for right now because that's 250 yards a game average over 16 games.
The games.
So let's just go 4,000. Does George Kittle get 1,000 out of those 4,000?
No.
Maybe close,
He gets
900 to 1,000.
well close. Yeah, 900 to 1,000, 850 to 1,000. Just because we've talked about this on the show a few times before, but I don't want people to get this misconstrued. I love George Kittle. George Kittle is the best tight end in the league now that Gronk is retired. I think he might have gave Gronk a run for his money, even if Gronk wasn't retired, just because he's so much younger. But George Kittle is the best tight end in the
I think
league.
he took the throne from him last year because Gronk
Yeah,
took that
I
little
do too.
step backward, and
I to me, the only argument people have with Gronk is Gronk's done it more consistently, obviously, because he was in the league longer. But
yeah,
I think when we look back, is George Kittle possibly could end up changing the position of tight end. I mean, it's George Kittle's going to be amazing, but I think George Kittle's just going to have less production just because tight ends don't put up 1,000 yards every year. Tight ends just don't. You know what I'm saying? Tight ends
he
just aren't going to
maybe
do this any year.
maybe if we
And let's
had
be
the same
realistic.
personnel like last year, you know what I mean?
Mm, that's what the point I was just going to make is let's be realistic. Why did George Kittle break the record? Because we had nothing else as far as or very little else as far as receivers concerned. It was George
Yeah,
Kittle and then a significant drop off to what Dante Pettis or whoever you
right.
can make for our number
When
two
Dante
receiver.
missed
And
games,
so
Marquise Goodwin missed games, Rita missed games,
yeah,
McKinney was
exactly.
out for the whole year. I mean, let's keep it real on that
Uh,
one.
yeah, so I think he'll get less targets just simply off of being more targets and more. There's going to be more distribution. There's just going to be more
Right.
targets. You're going to have Jarek McKinnon back. You're going to have Tevin Coleman. You're going to have Matt Breida. You're going to have Dante Pettis. You're going to have Marquise Goodwin. You're going to have Jalen Hurd. You're going to have Debo Samuel. You're going to just have so many more weapons, and teams are
Yeah.
going to focus so much more on George Kittle that he'll have more of a regression to the mean, but he's still going to have a Pro Bowl season. He's still going to be the best
Right.
tight end in the league. And it wouldn't shock me if he got 1,000 yards. But if
No, me
you made
neither.
me
And I
put
think
if
should
you
be
made
like
me
right
put money
there.
on it, go ahead. My
If
bad, bro.
you
Go
made me
ahead.
put money on it too, I mean, shit, I was gonna say probably like 950 yards.
Yeah,
Does that sound good? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because once again, he's going to be such a focal point on the offense, and rightfully so. But that's the beautiful thing about football and everything like that. So you start focusing on him, others start eating. Then it really has to be, well, you can't really focus in on Kittle that much anymore because obviously then the other guys are eating you. So it pretty much it forces eventually the defenses to being honest again in terms of like, all right, Kittle's a bad mother trucker, but unfortunately, by us overly focusing on him, others are eating. So we just have to play just a
Straight
regular
up.
old scheme. You know what I mean?
Eh,
And then that's when he might start eating again. But what
yep.
I wanted to kind of get into, so let's just say Kittle and the other tight ends have Caden Smith. I don't know if we'll carry a third tight end or not. In my
I think I
opinion,
got us two tight ends.
and when it's all
Well,
said and done, don't you think the running game though? Listen, while we're on subject, don't you think the running game is so important to the point that I don't think we can gamble with going to just three with just two tight ends? I mean, let's just say one guy goes down, God forbid. God forbid that guy is George Kittle. But let's just say the number two tight end goes out of the game, right?
yeah.
I mean, in that case, I mean, don't you think it's a little shaky in terms of like once again we've talked about Juice before. He can be able to line up at tight end if
That's
you
what I
need to,
was.
but then who's gonna go back to fullback?
Yeah, see, and that's what I was gonna say. If two tight ends go down, then you just flex Juice out.
I guess then you just
That's what I
adapt,
would
you just do
assume.
more. Yeah, you just run
But
three wide
exactly, who
receivers
goes
sets
to
and so
fullback?
forth.
Well, then let me counter with this. Okay, so let's say it's Selleck time, just to throw a name out there. I personally don't think Selleck makes the team. I think this will be the year that he doesn't make the
Well,
team.
he definitely has a fire lit under his ass now.
Yeah, or I'll put it to you this way: if Selleck time makes the team, it's going to be because a fire was lit under his ass because Caden Smith's coming for his job.
Yeah,
Let's not mistake that. Caden Smith is coming for his job.
yeah,
So let's just say it is Selleck time goes down. You flex out. What about putting Coleman at fullback? Because because essentially we don't necessarily put. And what I'm saying about this is I'm not talking about Coleman being the lead blocker.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, 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 no. What I'm just essentially talking about him running the routes that we would essentially give to Juice, and
Yeah.
that's what I think. It would it affect the offense? Yes, it would. Would we have to throw away some plays that we had scripted and things like that? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I think that we have the personnel and the coach, the head coach slash offensive coordinator, that we would be able to make those adjustments on the fly.
Right. I'm just
I
saying
would I would hope
I
at
wouldn't be
least.
surprised if we ended up going with three tight ends.
I wouldn't be surprised too. To me, I'm trying to I'm trying to catch numbers. I had a discussion with this on Twitter with somebody or Facebook with somebody the other day. I said, look, I'm all good for keeping four running backs, three quarterbacks, seven receivers, all that. But it's a numbers game. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
100%.
Somewhere you're going to have to make a sacrifice. Well, what's the strength of the team? The strength of the team is the D line. So you're going to keep as many D line as possible. You know, so
Yep.
we had the discussion a little bit, and we'll get into this when we get into quarterbacks. But we had two quarterbacks. We had Jimmy G. Cool and BDN making it, and CJ essentially getting released. But we'll get into that more when we get into quarterbacks. What I wanted to ask you right now is we'll get into D line right now is with Bosa out now. What were those? You went ahead and I'll let you get the glory. What were the days that he would be eligible for?
So the days. So right now, so he got injured. What, like about last Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
So that was like the 20th, 21st, or whatnot. So the next, in my opinion, to pop this up really quick, 1 second, folks. So I think he'll actually be eligible. So there's June. So the next phase of as right now, the
Phase three.
phase three of OTA. Excuse me. The dates right here actually show phase three. I guess we did move on to phase three. So
Oh,
maybe that was
okay.
my mistake. So yeah, I guess we are in phase three. The next one is going to take place obviously the 28th and 29th. which is Tuesday, Wednesday. And then it takes a then you have one day off. I'm sorry, yeah, one day off. May 30th they're off, and then they go back on May 31st. And then the next one after that is going to be 2 days off, and then June 3rd to June 4th is going to be the next available. I don't think he's going to make it for that one. Then they take a day off, and then June 6th, and then finally they take 4 days off, and then the last part of phase three of the OTAs is June 11th through June 13th, and I think that's the last part of the phase three of the OTAs that I think he'll be eligible to play. But obviously, it's going to depend on exactly where he's at. If even if he's at 95%, do they
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
mean, I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, no disrespect to Ronald Blair, and we'll get into him in a second. It's like once again, he's going to be so important this year that I don't risk it whatsoever if I'm the 49ers.
yeah. No, you're not risking Nick Bosa. Let's put it this way. A lot of the hype around the D line this year, yeah, D Ford and Defoe and all that. But let's put it this way: a lot of the hype is centered around number 97. Number 97. I mean, if you go back to listen to the show last season, when we were in that losing streak, it was, hey, Bosa will be worth it. Bosa will be worth it. Bosa will be worth it. So, you know, no, all that matters is day one of training camp, albeit him signed his contract, which I anticipate he will be.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think he
is
suits up June 11th? I say he's not because I
Yeah,
think they're going to
I
play
don't
it
either.
super
I
safe.
don't. I don't because Ian got into this a little bit on how Ian said he wasn't concerned, and as long as he's physically there at practice, getting the mental reps, getting
Right.
learning the playbook, interacting with his teammates, learning how to become a pro. The most important thing is Nick Bosa being there September 8th. The second most
Right.
important thing is Nick Bosa being there July 26th when training camp starts.
And let's
That
be
to
honest.
me,
In my opinion, you're right. You're 100% right about that. And I think defensive line is, I'm not going to say it's easy to transition from college to the NFL, but in my opinion, like you really, like your assignments are, they're not going to, I'm not going to say like they're basic or easy or anything along the lot, anything along those lines, like being a cakewalk. But I really think it's like, all right, these are my assignments. I got to conceal the edge, whatever. And then I pretty much got to go head to head against the tackle. And I might have to like take on a double team with a guard if they happen to try to combo me or whatnot. But at the end of the day, and once again, that we talked about earlier, it's really huge, in my opinion, like very, very like handy to have that. Once again, Joey Bosa plays under the same scheme under Gus Bradley, who used to be with Seattle. They run essentially like kind of the same. Obviously, they have their own wrinkles, and we're gonna have ours as well. But they run the same scheme. So right now, even though he's missing time, once again, that we talked about off the air, he can be able to guide him like, hey, these are your assignments or whatnot, and hopefully just Nick Bosa just has to learn that terminology. Um, so that's very important to have. And I brought this up as well, and everybody's like, not everybody. I'm sorry. I had like somebody respond in the way of like, no, Nick Bosa is a starter right now, and that's my boy. His name is Jason, by the way. I don't know if he's watching or not, but Ronald Blair, let's not get it twisted. Right now, Ronald Blair had a really nice season last year. He had 5.5 sacks, but Nick Bosa just doesn't come in on day one and just surpass Ronald Blair as a starting edge opposite of D Ford. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'll put it to you this way: the Niners
It takes a little time to
expect,
leapfrog.
yeah. Well, the Niners expect Nick Bosa to be our starter. Like, let's
We all do.
get,
I'm talking
but
about
no,
today.
yeah. You're not gonna come in day one and just simply, as you said, one does not come and take Ronald
Ronald
Blair's
Blair's job
job.
in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, one does not simply look. I think Ronald Blair is gonna have something to say about a rookie coming to take his job. You know,
On a contract year.
on a
On a contract
contract
year too.
year. Ooh,
Yep.
so uh, Julian Taylor. Julian Taylor doesn't go through all that work he went through last year and everything just to let some rookie take his job. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that Julian Taylor would start over Nick Bosa or anything like that.
No.
But what I'm saying is
But
essentially is that you know the inner workings of NFL locker room are very tricky because what you have is if Nick Bosa is handed anything, I'm a little insulted if I'm Ronald Blair. Not
right.
insulted to the
What
sense is I understand this is a second overall pick. I understand Nick Bosa is talented and things like that. But who are you? What have you done?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
you're projected to be this great player, but Ryan Leaf was expected to be the next Joe Montana. You
yeah.
know,
I'm trying to think like in basketball, like once again, like sometimes top picks, you don't just come in day one, and there's nothing wrong with that. Once again, if like we talked about this before, remember a long time ago with like I'll always bring up Alden Smith. I honestly, I don't know how you feel and 49er fans should feel. Do we really give a rat's ass about Nick Bosa playing base defense? I mean,
no.
I think at the end of the day, we would all be happy if he's just nickel only, rush the quarterback, and that's it. And honestly speaking, Ronald Blair is probably definitely suited to be better against the run. I mean, the guy can literally play inside as well, so he's very versatile right there. But he has a little more beef to him, and he's
Well,
obviously used to the NFL and having to play run defense and everything like that. So
well, just getting into the little bit of my boy. Okay, so Chris says that Ronald Blair is a superhero. Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. Ronald Blair is gangster, bro. We're definitely with you, Chris.
he might be I mean, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with the 49ers base defense or
Yeah,
whatnot. And, Bosa will be used at defensive end there on the opposite side of D Ford. Who knows? But I mean, at the end of the day, let's just say if Bosa does start, Ronald Blair still should get a decent amount of snaps because he could be the first one off the bench at either defensive end or inside as well. Um, yeah,
yeah,
like I said, it's
exactly.
definitely a great problem to
So,
have, honestly.
oh, it's the world's greatest problem. I mean, could you imagine being Chris? I don't even know how to say his last name, and Robert Sala and the front office and
Oh,
coaching
Chris,
staff.
I think it's Kachurek.
Kucheruk. Okay, I'll,
Yeah.
I'll I'll look up somebody saying it, and I'll get it
Yeah,
by
I
the
think
end of
it's
the
C's
season.
pronounced like a ch
Cha.
in some European countries. That's why.
Okay, but could you imagine being the coaching staff and having to sit down with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and pick out of this D line, who's gonna make the team and not? I do not envy those meetings because those meetings are probably going to get a little heated.
Well, it's definitely going to be like a boxing match in terms of for the opposing offensive line. I mean, honestly speaking, if you have a fresh Ronald Blair, a fresh Arik Armstead, or Solomon Thomas, depending on who starts inside and nickel, but can you imagine like consistently fresh bodies that are
Oh yeah,
literally? I'm not going to call them all impact guys, but like these guys are no like they're no pushovers. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh
yeah,
great, these guys are tired. We just have to throw this guy in there to get a couple snaps. We pray to God he
yeah.
might do a little something. Like no,
No,
this is kind of like having your sixth and seventh man. It's kind of like having your Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston and stuff
yeah,
like that, like coming off
exactly,
the bench. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Good
Like
point.
that's like some big. It's kind of like low key big firepower. When you're able to have guys like that coming off the bench. So and then once again, another guy we need to throw a shout out to, Pita
Yeah,
Talumopinu. I
yes,
mean, once again,
Talamapinu.
there's a reason why Dakota Watson got traded, Cash Marsh got released, and then Demontre Moore got cut too. So right now,
Yeah,
Peter T is your number 4. And right now, with Bosa being out, I mean, and I wonder right now in nickel, it probably is Ronald Blair. Ronald Blair would be the number 2 right now
yeah,
until Nick Bosa gets healthy and is able to overleap him. But right now, with Bosa's injury, Peter T is like the first one off the bench. But you can say for the Y9 role, he's probably better possibly than Ronald Blair because of his get off there. So that's going to be a really interesting person to kind of look out for this year. He's like a wild card. Hopefully, we don't have to use him that much, obviously, because that would mean that Nick Bosa and Ronald Blair are doing theirs along with D Ford, right? But he could be that guy that you just throw a little smoke out there, like yo, like go get him, literally. Like
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen any of his clips or whatnot, but I think he's coming along real nice.
yeah. No, I remember somebody had asked us about PETA. That's actually one of the players I forgot to ask Ian about. Um, but to me, exactly, PETA. I mean, this is to me with PETA, my personal, not to put it rude like this, but it's put up or shut up time for him. You know, that's how I'm looking at PETA as far as the Niners are concerned. Now, if PETA is cut,
I
you
think he
know,
might need 1 year more seasoning still, but we'll
I
see.
think somebody, depending on, of course, this is before we see him in preseason and everything like that. But if PETA shows a little something, just a little bit of something this year, because I think he was purposely kept out of a lot of preseason action the last 2 years because they didn't want teams to see him, and they
Right.
wanted to be able to sneak him through practice squad. Um,
I'm sure the 49ers gave him a little extra cheese too, like, hey, like this is just a
Exactly.
situation right now, and your time is coming. Same thing kind of with Ian Williams. You remember he had to
Yep.
put in his
Hmm.
time. I don't even think
Hmm.
he played at all his first 3 years. I just looked up his stats earlier. I don't think he literally played at all.
He was. I believe it was role type of role player or anything like that. But no, 2014 was essentially when he made his
His
his,
first
his
year,
jump. Yeah,
right,
his jump, and then 2015 got the contract, or the end of
right.
2015 got the contract extension, all that. So to me, PETA, it's put up or shut up time this year for PETA T.
It
Not
could
not
be,
saying he
especially
can't
if you
do
need
it.
him.
I personally met the man. The man is freakishly athletic. I mean, the
Yeah,
man, you just don't simply make people like that. You know what I'm saying? He looks the part. You know what
like
I'm
I said,
saying? Yeah,
didn't
it's
also play football until was 16 or 17 years old.
exactly.
So that's why I think maybe another year of seasoning. But here's the question I want to ask you too:
Yeah.
what you try to extend Ronald Blair right now, or you kind of just like play it by ear, let the year finish out, and then kind of reanalyze your defensive line in the offseason? Because I think it could be beneficial, kind of like we used to do before. Getting somebody extending him before maybe like you get to the point where you have to maybe compete with other teams for his services. I'd really love to have him back. I just don't know though. Are we maybe just gonna say, you know what, we'll draft somebody next year, or we'll see how Peter T comes along as an edge rusher? You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that?
Uh, Ronald Blair. I'll put it to you this way. If you're looking at Ronald Blair and you're saying Ronald Blair is a serious player in our defensive line rotation, right? And he will. Let's say you say he'll see some snaps with Defoe. He'll see some snaps with Bosa and Ford
Well,
and
here's a
whatnot. So my thing about it is, if you feel that he's going to be out there with the starters, let's just say not injured, knock on wood, no injuries, but just Defoe needs a rest,
yeah.
type of situation. Um, you extend him now. Or I'll put it to you this way. Then let me counter with this question: do you feel that Ronald Blair's stock's going to go up or stay neutral at the end of the season? I think his stock's going to go up. So
Really?
with his stock going up this year, because he just has more talent around him, and he'll be able to eat because there's edge pressure and
Yeah.
things like that. Is if you're not willing to compete for Ronald Blair, you come to him now. You come to him now and you say, "Hey, you want to be here?" Like, because you got to see, does he want that? Hey, do you want to be here? If he wants to be here, you say, okay, this is what we're willing to give you.
See, that's the problem.
If he says I want to test free agency, then you go ahead and you say, okay, fine. You don't rule out bringing him back. But if he wants to be here, if he comes to me and says I want to be a Niner, I sign him now.
I think
But if
he's
he,
going to possibly try to find a team maybe that
I
are
do
going to give
too.
him a heavy amount of snaps to boost himself up.
I do too.
I don't know if that's going to be like a risk, like, hey, I'm going to take a 1 year deal with this team because they're promising this amount of snaps, and then I get to get off, and then
Hmm.
obviously maybe set myself up for the best payday possible. But what I thought about is it might come down to maybe. So we've been on record too saying this might be Arik Armstead's last year here. It very
Yeah.
well could be. I wonder if it might come down for the 49ers, like, hey, we're either going to re-sign
Sign
Ronald
him.
Blair or we're
Okay.
either going to re-sign Arik Armstead. Who would you
Okay.
rather have out of the two? Personally, because of more of an edge rushing factor, I'd rather have Ronald Blair.
Yeah.
Since obviously we have so much beef on the inside, Katavius Street, Sheldon Day, Julian Taylor, on top of obviously Solomon Thomas, DeForest Buckner. I think I'm missing one more defensive tackle. DJ Jones is also in the mix
Yeah.
too. But yeah, all those guys can play inside. And so I think what it comes down to, I probably let Arik Armstead walk. Who knows? Maybe by the trade deadline, the defensive line is looking so good and so deep, and other guys are ready. I wouldn't be shocked. Just saying, and obviously that would be a great sign that everybody's healthy too, right? I wouldn't be shocked maybe if Arik
Yeah.
Armstead is traded by the deadline in terms of get something for him while you can. But obviously, if the juice is not worth the squeeze, one of my favorite analogies, then obviously you simply hold on to
Yeah.
him and you obviously have him for depth because I think Solomon Thomas is going to wind up starting next to DeForest Buckner. But who knows? Maybe Solomon Thomas is a fastball while Arik Armstead is a curveball type of guy next to DeForest Buckner. Maybe they'll literally get 50-50 type of snaps inside.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, see, to get onto Solomon Thomas a little bit, and this was one of my most interesting besides the little stories he told at the end of the interview. This was actually one of the greatest takes I took away from the interview with Ian Williams. Was I straight up asked him, "Do you believe?" Essentially, I asked him, "Do you believe Solomon Thomas has it in him to be a 10 to 15 sack guy?" And he said, "Yeah." And
Yeah,
so Ian Williams seemed very high on Solomon Thomas.
yeah.
And I won't give away all the interview, because it'll give people a incentive to go listen to it. But to me, Ian Williams was very high on Solomon Thomas, and so I'm
When he
using
didn't have
this
to.
year.
Let's be real. He didn't have to. Like he
He
could have
did.
been
He
like,
didn't.
you know
No.
what?
He.
Love him as a player, but Arik Armstead, in my opinion, is going to get the majority of the snaps next
Yeah.
to Buckner.
Exactly. He. It wasn't like we probed him in that
No,
way. He came out with that of his own. So to me, what I'm essentially saying is, if you think Solomon Thomas can be what we think he is, I personally don't think he's a 15 sack guy. I think Solomon Thomas is a 7 to 9 sack guy, which is fine. I'm okay with that.
that'd be
Because
fantastic. Are you kidding me? How many times did Justin Smith get over 8 sacks?
yeah, I'm perfectly okay with Solomon Thomas getting 6 sacks this year, because Defoe's going to get 15, D Ford's going to have 10 to 10 and a half, and Nick Bosa's probably going to be rookie of the year. So I'm okay with. I don't need 15 sacks from Solomon
Right.
Thomas.
Let's play a little 49ers trivia for a second. How many sacks do you think Justin Smith had in 2011?
6,
7.5. How
7.5.
many? Oh, this is going to be juicy. You're going to love this one. He missed 2 games in 2012. How many
Yeah.
sacks do you think he had in 2012 when we went to the Super Bowl?
Single digit? Is it single digits?
Oh, it is,
I'm gonna
sir.
put 5.
3. 3
3.
sacks. How
Hey,
many do
you
you
know
think he
what?
had in 2013? All 16 games this
1.
time.
1.
No, 6.5. So
Okay.
total from 2011 to 2014, he had 10.5, 11, 17, 22 sacks in 4 years. So that comes down to 6, 12, like less than 6 sacks average per year. I think it's
And I
five
don't
and a half.
think,
Yeah, 5.5 sacks a year average. So let's
and
not
I
sit
don't
here
think,
and think like it needs to be 8 sacks
yeah,
or bust for Solomon Thomas, for example.
because Ian pretty much had said in the interview that having veterans like Justin Smith is the
Right.
reason we made the jump in 2011. So I don't think you'll find one faithful that will say that Justin Smith wasn't a great Niner. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
And there you go.
three
So,
3 sacks during our Super Bowl season. I know he missed 2 games. 3 sacks.
but because you know what that was, right? That was him eating up double teams so
I
Alton
know
could
that.
eat.
I'm
But,
just
but yeah, ex- ex-
sometimes people look at the stats. Oh yeah, he
exactly.
had 3 sacks. Like that doesn't tell the whole story. And honestly speaking, you know what I'm curious to see next year? Never mind really sacks, quarterback hits, because that you're pretty much
Hmm.
that close away from a sack. And when you're
Yep.
that close away from a sack and the quarterback happens to throw it, if you're in the process of obviously going for it, that's what the quarterback hit is. So that is very, very important right there. Pressure. I love me some pressures. Don't get me wrong, but you can get a pressure by being an X amount of feet away from him. But a quarterback
Exactly.
hit means you were that close away from a sack, and obviously you gave him a little extra. You know what I mean? Even
Exactly.
though he ended up getting rid of it. So
Look,
that'll be something.
football is a very violent sport. Let's we don't like to see people hurt, la di da di da, all that type
Or
of
do
jazz.
we? Or
Or
do we?
do we? Well, depending on who the player is. Look, I wouldn't mind seeing Russell Wilson, separate a shoulder or something
Oh
like that.
man, I know.
Uh,
Man, while we're talking about Russell Wilson, is it bad that I low key do like the guy? I don't know. Maybe
yes,
part of it is so
it's
many people
horrible.
shit talk on him. Obviously, 49er faithful, and man, I love my 49er brethren. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're giving him the man enough respect, in my personal opinion.
Look,
And but hey,
as
that's part of the business of being a division rival.
as a black quarterback, I respect him. Is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Yeah. Okay, and I respect that. That's fine. But to walk around and act like he's Jesus, and the next thing that look, does
How
does
many
my
Jesus
hatred of
plays has
Russell
he
Wilson
made?
does
How
my
many Jesus plays has he made against us?
yeah, and does that have to do a lot with my hatred of him? Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
I'll admit that. Yes, I am going to sit here and admit I hate Russell Wilson. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see all the time. I'll say, "Good morning, Niner Empire." Never forget, Russell Wilson's still a bitch, or just whatever. I'll put shit talking thing about Russell Wilson all the time. Does that have to do with the fact that he's tortured? I still see the game winning touchdown for an NFC Championship game. I still see Alden Smith being fingertips away from him sacking before he threw that touchdown. Literally, fingertips away from taking down Russell Wilson when he threw the game winning, what ended up being the game winning touchdown in the NFC Championship game.
And that's
I, you know,
honestly, yeah, I agree with you 100%. But that's what excites me about D Ford. We haven't had a pass rusher like him. Obviously, Alden
since
was an
Alden.
absolute beast at one point. Shout out Justin Smith, who obviously helped him. Like a shake and bake per se.
Yeah.
In the word Talladega Nights, like they kind of needed each other, and obviously to get the W's. In Alden's case, obviously the sacks. But D Ford just has such a relentless speed and such a relentless get off that could this year be finally the year where like Russell Wilson is not doing the little scramble bullshits like he normally used to
Houdini.
do against us. Even when the 49ers defense was at their peak, he was still toying with us,
He really
because
was.
with all respect to Alden, he wasn't that fast, crazy, twitchy edge rusher. You know what I mean? He was actually very, very well rounded. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think he was just. Would you say that's like best describes Alden Smith? He had
Yeah,
violent hands,
yeah.
but he was just all around. He was like a well distributed machine. He
Yeah.
wasn't like I would say his hand usage was elite, but other than that, I don't think anything else was really elite. He was just a very good package. Kind of like I think why the Raiders ended up taking Clelin Ferrell, and everyone's saying that was a huge reach, but I think they saw some Alden Smith in him where like, all right, he has a little bit of everything in terms of that package though is going to end up getting it done.
We don't talk much trader football on here, but I actually do have a friend that asked my opinion about Karen Farrell. And to me, the Raiders selected him because of that Alden in him and everything like that. And if you talk to anybody at Clemson, they'll tell you he's a high character guy. Well, let's
Oh
not
yeah,
forget. Let's not forget where the Raiders are moving into in next year. They're moving to Vegas. So what do they need? They needed a player that they knew that wasn't going to be out gambling until 4 o'clock in the morning the night before a game.
right.
That's a character pick.
Yeah, and Mike
That's a character. That's a team leader. You're gonna set the tone in the locker room of, hey, we don't go out 4 o'clock in the morning the night before a game
right.
gambling. That's why
And
Colin
dude,
Farrell was selected.
I agree with you 100%. I remember seeing the call though, like when after you make a selection, like you call
Yeah.
the player, you tell them that you got drafted. And Mike Mayock, which is the Raiders
Hmm.
GM, I love me some Mike Mayock, by the way.
I
I
do
miss
too.
his ass on NFL Network all the time. He was the boss. And he was like the guy. This is how you know that this guy is legit. He had George Kittle ranked as his number 4 tight end. That obviously in the 2017 draft, right
Yeah.
after OJ Howard, and Joku and Ingram, all 3 tight ends that went before George Kittle were all first round picks. And then the number 5 ranked tight end was Gerald Everett that the Rams took in the second round. Obviously, we got George Kittle in the 5th, but he had him as his number 4 tight end. That's how much he knows his shit. Back on point though, he called Clelin Ferrell and was like, "You're here because of like leadership. Like they think he's going to be the guy that's going to rally the troops and the whole whoop de whoop, and he's going to be committed 1,000%." So honestly speaking, people can shit talk a little bit on safe picks, but I don't blame them when the Raiders were
No.
so thirsty for like they can't afford to miss. So I
Yeah.
think Clelin
No.
Ferrell, it might have been like a little of a comfort, but at least they know what they're getting, and they obviously
Same thing
believe
with
enough in their
Solomon
feeling
Thomas.
that they can't lose. You know what I mean?
Same exact thing with Solomon Thomas. Because essentially, let's be realistic. The 2017, it was coming down between Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. Okay, why did
Yeah.
Solomon Thomas get picked? Because John Lynch knew him. He was his classmate. He knew that he would come and work. There's a story of Justin Smith that one of Justin Smith's first defensive team meetings, Justin Smith got up, looked at everyone in the locker room, and said, "You're meeting me here at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we're lifting weights." And that the tone was set right then and there. Justin Smith's the leader. He sets the tone. This is what it is. You following me, or else there's consequences. And that's what
Remember at the
And
time,
that's what
people thought
Clarence
Justin
Farrell
Smith was
is.
overpaid.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Remember when people used to think Justin Smith was overpaid or we overpaid for him? And obviously that ended up being one of the best. Okay, shit. Who are the top 2 or 3 best 49ers signings in franchise history?
Okay, you got to go Justin Smith.
I think it's Justin Smith number one, even over Dion, because Dion only played for 1
Played
year.
1 year.
Obviously, he helped get that title to us. But Justin Smith's still number one. So who are your other
Ken
two? Are we gonna
Norton.
put Dion top two, top three?
Just going off the top of my head right now, without seeing a list in front of me. Brett Jones, I believe, was a trade. Brett Jones was a
Okay.
trade from the Steelers. So I'm gonna have to say, yeah, it would probably be Justin
Dion,
Smith. Justin Smith, maybe Dion number two, and then you got to go
Ken
probably,
Norton.
yeah, Ken Norton. Ken Norton to me
Yeah.
was
I'm sure there's some old school cats maybe we're missing. You would know a lot
yeah,
better
yeah,
than me
yeah.
as far as the.
I would have to go through and actually really, research it. Matter of fact, I'll do a blog on it.
Wasn't
I'll do a
wasn't it
blog on
Fred
top
Dean?
10.
Wasn't Fred
Yeah,
Dean and
yeah. Okay,
wasn't Fred
there you
Dean
go.
a
There you go. I was thinking it was Fred. Okay, I'm sorry. Hacksaw Reynolds was a trade. Fred Dean was a free agent signing. So yeah, you got to put Fred Dean over Ken Norton.
Yeah, so I think probably Fred Dean number
Yeah,
two, and then number
yeah. Fred
three would
Dean number
probably
two.
be down to Dion and Ken Norton.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we could go that. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here pretty quick. But before we get out here, we said this. Give me your top two. You go out to the Niners call you up and invite you to training camp and say, hey, come out to training camp. What's your top two position battles you're watching?
I would have to obviously go defensive back. Then you can make a case for it. Well, that's the thing too. Actually, we didn't bring up Jimmy Ward. Obviously, he's going to be out 8 to 12 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully,
Yeah,
he's in time for training camp. So let's just, since he's injured right now, you would just kind of assume that Adrian Colbert is the clear
yeah,
front runner for the job, and it
yeah.
probably is going to be his to lose after he picks up some nice steam. Let's take that one out of the way. I'd probably say Jason Verrett versus Ahkello Witherspoon. That's going to be one of my most up there type of battles. The second one, I'm just trying to think. Man, that's a tough one. I guess Solomon Thomas versus Arik Armstead for the nickel defensive tackle
Yeah.
spot next to Buckner. Those are my top two
Mine,
right there.
I'll go. I'll go a little bit of a different direction, and I'll say actual drills. I'm looking for uh, D Ford, basically our edge rushers. D Ford and Bosa versus Staley and McGlinchey,
Okay.
especially Ford versus Joe Staley, because when you hear the best left tackle in football say I had problems with D Ford last year,
And that,
that's saying something. Because this is Joe Staley. This is a man for like 4 years in a row he didn't allow a quarterback pressure. You know what I'm saying? So this is one of the best left tackles in the league.
yeah.
And when he comes out and says, "Hey, look, this man right here, he's legit," I want to see that. I want to see that battle, and then of course McGlinchey because he's our future and things of that nature. Also, I want to see Sherman and Verrett Witherspoon. The three our main three corners. Go against Debo. Jalen
Dante Goodwin.
Hurd, Dante Goodwin, and all that. I think those will be some of the receiver versus corner are obviously some of the most popular drills in
Right.
in,
They're
in
fun.
training
You're
camp.
able to see a lot.
Yeah, but to me, that's what I am because Debo Samuel's got some jukesome to him. He's got some wiggle to
Oh
him.
my God.
But let's see you have that wiggle against Jason Verrett.
Yeah.
Let's see you have that wiggle against Richard Sherman.
Right.
And then as far as Kilo's concerned, is that well let's see. We've heard a lot about how this is going to be a bounce back year for him. I have faith in him. Robert Sala loves him, so I have faith in a Kilo. But let's see. Okay, Kilo. You got a fire lit under your ass. Okay, it happens to us all.
That big.
Sometimes we all need that kick in the ass. So let's see it, brother. Let's go. If I had a chance to talk to Kilo, I shake his hand and I'd be like, all right, bro, go out there and dominate. Let's do it, baby.
Let's once again, let's not forget
Yeah.
he had a solid 4 to 5 game stretch before re-injuring himself to close out the season, which actually gave some officially reps to Tavarius Moore to get his feet wet a little bit as he's getting seasoning. But let's not kind of forget this as well. Whoever, let's just say, for example, Ahkello Witherspoon, like once again, Jason Verrett will be available for training camp, in my opinion, but he's coming back from a torn Achilles. We saw what happened with Richard Sherman last year, not being quite 100%. Hopefully, maybe by mid-season, like Jason Garrett will be. But let's just say Ahkello Witherspoon, and I literally put this out there. I'm getting a funny feeling he might actually be the starter week 1 on the outside. But check this out. That's not an issue whatsoever because let's just say Jason Barrett does lose, or maybe he just needs a little more time to kind of, you know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be like the first month that he's continued to challenge Ahkello Witherspoon. But if Ahkello Witherspoon is just handling business, I wouldn't be shocked if in 3 wide receiver sets. I love me some Kwan Williams as well. I don't know what's going to happen with him. What I'm trying to get is Jason Barrett has great inside ability as well at the slot. So you could have a Killer Witherspoon on the outside, and then Jason Barrett slides to the inside if he ends up losing. So, like, it doesn't need to be a Killer Witherspoon versus Jason Barrett, and whoever loses is just going to, like, rot on the bench. So there's
Right on
also
the
that
bench. Yeah.
possibility as well.
Well, also, and let's be realistic. What has Robert Sala always said? We will get the best 11 on the field. So if Ahkello Witherspoon and Jason Verrett prove that they're part of the 11 best players that we have available on defense, you know what I'm saying? Then,
Yeah,
yeah, they're going to figure out a way to get him on the field.
right.
All right, well, it's almost that time again, but before we get out of here, y'all, we'd like to remind you get your Niner questions to Adam and I. Email NinerFaithfulRadio@gmail.com or hit us up on social media. Adam's at 49ers Insiders on Twitter. I'm at Niner Faithful R on Twitter and Niner Faithful Radio on Instagram and Facebook. Participate in our weekly poll. We'll go ahead and we'll be contacting people for Tuesday to give away our draft towel. I have a very special surprise for this week's poll. I'm not going to give it, but it's a playing card. But this playing card is, I'll put it to you this way: it's a Hall of Fame playing card. So, yeah, um, it's a Hall of Fame playing card for a Niner Hall of Famer that's very special to the Red and Gold.
Ooh,
It's a card I had to pay a little pretty penny for this card. But yeah, so
good
we're
here,
gonna
man.
so make sure they go ahead and participate in our weekly poll to be eligible to win that. Uh, Niner Faithful Radio's on YouTube, as y'all see. So we actually got a question. Somebody sent in their top five free agent Niner history. So we'll go ahead and we'll look into that in a second. But Niner Faithful Radio's on YouTube. We're trying to monetize. So to help with that, we've decided to let one lucky subscriber not only go to a Niner game and a tailgate at Empire Row, but also get a ticket to the Niner Museum at Levi's. To be eligible to win, all you have to do is subscribe on YouTube. The winner will be announced on the first show after we hit 4,200 watch minutes and 1,200 subscribers. Shop Niner Faithful Radio for officially licensed gear from 49ershop.com, NFLshop.com, Fanatics.com, Target, eBay, Amazon, and more. Visit www.ninerfaithfulradio.com/shop or like us on Facebook at Niner Faithful Radio Shop. All the websites are in the link description below, and I pasted them in the comments. Join our Patreon rewards program for as little as $1 a month. You can get special perks like 10% off Niner Faithful Radio Shop, monthly giveaways, an invite to join Adam and I on a segment of Niner Faithful Radio, and much more. Please visit patreon.com/Niner Faithful Radio. The link, of course, is in the description. Or visit our YouTube channel, or NinerFaithfulRadio.com. We all have the buttons for Patreon there. Go to SeatGiant.com, use the promo code NinerFaithfulRadio, all one word, and save on all theater, concert, and sporting events tickets, as well as help out the show. Make sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Adam's at 49ers Insiders. I'm at 49ers Niner Faithful R on Twitter, and Niner Faithful Radio on Facebook and Instagram. Visit NinerFaithfulRadio.com to read all our blogs from Nothing But Niners and Sports Elite, get the show notes, and see our advertising and sponsor packages. If you're listening to us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Blueberry, or tune in, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. It really helps the show out. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button and the bell button as well. And use the promo code. We'll go ahead and make it Die Hard. I'll go ahead and put that up on Tuesday. But use the promo code Die Hard for 20% off on all Niner Faithful Radio merchandise available at NinerFaithfulRadio.com/shop. Um, so Chris has put his top 5 free agent signings as Dion, Garrison Hurst. Ah, that's a good one. Ken Norton, Tim McDonald, Jeff Garcia. Kind of hard to argue Tim McDonald and Jeff Garcia. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if I would put him above Dion or Ken Norton, but
Can you
definitely
imagine?
Tim McDonald. I will admit, I did not know Tim McDonald. I've forgotten Tim McDonald was a free agent signing. Tim
Yeah.
McDonald, great safety. Anything else you would like to add, Adam?
You know what? I was just simply saying from earlier, you know what? It feels really good about this moment and the 53 being like so, in my opinion, I'm not saying it's stacked where like literally, top five Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah,
But what's going under the radar is literally the spirit of the competition that's going to be taking place this year, being so stacked left to right, and guys are going to be fighting not just for roster spots, but they're going to be fighting for snaps as well, which is huge. There's not that many snaps to go around. So you know what that means? Like I said, everyone's just going to be on it, going hard every single day. Because if you don't, either risk your actual spot or risk you just rotting the bench, then you haven't proven anything as far as to actually deserve those snaps. So that's
exactly.
exciting. It's exciting for me.
It's we'll go hard for go hard, but no. Just to piggyback off of what you said, if you said that lack of a competition was an issue last year, and people being handed jobs last year was an issue, that's definitely not going to be this case.
Right.
You will earn your. I promise you this. Every person who plays whatever game it happens to be, trust and believe they earned every single one of those snaps.
Right.
We aren't. To me, the depth we are, like you said, we're not a lock, Super Bowl lock. We're not going to be anybody's sexy, surprise Super Bowl pick. But we have
Never
the
know.
type of roster now. We have the type of roster where two things: you can never underestimate competition, and it bring out the best in people. And we have the type of roster now that if people don't underperform and we get a few surprises, maybe Solomon Thomas does has 10 sacks, for example, that you know what, we're not as far off as people think. And you know what?
Right.
I'll put it to you this way.
Not at all.
If we can end the season playing the right way, I have a feeling that nobody's going to want to play us in the playoffs.
Especially if we get off to a hot start. You know what I mean? Just like going back to 2011.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Yeah, that's a nice little cliche. But at the end of the day, it is important to start off well because if you start behind the eight ball, you know what I mean? If you obviously don't get it done and you come off to a slow start, then what? Are you possibly battling for like 8 and 8, 9 and 7? So I think it is very, very important to get off to a hot start and run away with that momentum because once again, more so of a younger team, you know what I mean? These guys need that confidence. And once again, that we talked about with Ian, you know what I mean? Just a couple of those wins. Next thing you know, everyone's just, the energy and fire is just through the roof. Everyone's feeling good. Their confidence
Confidence.
levels are up. And then you possibly have an opportunity to go on a magical run and see whatever the hell happens.
Hey, you know what? There's an age-old saying in baseball that you can't win a division we'll switch it to football. You can't win a division in September, but you sure as hell can lose it.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right, y'all. Well, we shall see y'all next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Till then, we're going to go ahead and say faith, love, and happiness. Go Niners.
Take
All
care,
right, we'll
everybody.
see you
Thanks a
next
lot.
week.
Have a good one. Take care, guys.
Yep.